Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to fully reseal and re-silicone around a bathtub or even around a shower area. So I've just started off by filming the old sealant around the bath area. It's gone pretty moldy, as you can see. You'll be able to see later on how bad it is in behind the sealant. Especially up along here, you can see it's starting to unadhere and it's just getting real bad, real dirty. So these are the tools you'll need. To start with, you'll need a new Stanley knife, preferably with a new blade, a scraper knife, so you can scrape the skin of the silicone off the bath and tiles, a sealant gun to push the silicone out, a brush and pan or vacuum cleaner, a bucket of water with some dishwashing liquid, a spray bottle with dishwashing liquid in it, and you're going to need a paddle pop stick, either a small skinny one like this or a bigger thicker one like this, depending on the profile you want on the bath. Would be dependent upon the stick you use. So I'm choosing to use a bigger profile to go with a fatter bead. So it's important to throw your popsicle stick in the solution and let it soak. I'll be showing you guys later on why so. So you want to start by cutting the top edge and then the bottom edge of the silicone bead so you can get most part of it out. If you see here, you can see the mold starting to form in behind it. As you can see, I'm using the Stanley knife itself to scrape along the tile, and you can also use it to scrape along the bottom edge of the bath as well. Initially, you just want to get the main of the silicone out though, so you want to cut along the top edge and along the bottom edge and pull that bead out. It's important to also cut deep inside of the joint itself so you can get as much of that mold and as much of that old silicone out. Just continuing cutting the bottom and top edge, getting the main part of it out. Silicone's really sticky and a lot of it skins, so you're going to have to do a lot of scraping and get all that skin from the tile and from the bath. So here you can see I'm using the scraper knife, and this is really good for getting all that excess skin off. You want to be careful with these tools because they're very sharp, and I probably should be wearing gloves, but I have been doing this for 7 years now, so I do consider myself a professional. If you guys are new to this, I definitely advise to be wearing safety gloves and glasses and anything that's going to make the process more safe. So continue scraping, get all the skin and sticky silicone off. Over here, so you can see me continue scraping the tile and then scraping the bath edge, really being thorough so the new sealant we apply can adhere properly to the surface. Then what you want to do is you want to grab your vacuum cleaner or your dust brush. I prefer a dust brush personally because you can really get deep inside the crevices, and I just find it more intimate using a dust brush. But if you prefer to use a vacuum cleaner, that's also a good option. So brush or suck all that pre-existing silicone out and away. Then once you've done that, you want to grab your scraper knife again and get all the existing silicone skin that's still sitting on the bath and tile edges. You want to be scraping that off. It's hard to see, so you want to get a good eye, look close, because silicone is so sticky. The skin tends to hold once you've scraped it all off, so you want to be thorough and try and scrape as much of the skin off as you can, so when you apply the new bead it all sticks properly. So this is all the old sealant. That was a fair bit of it. Alright, so I'm now cutting the silicone tube. I'm cutting this little tab off. You don't have to. Some people don't, some people do. I usually do cut it off. It doesn't make a difference, to be honest. So now the bead I'm applying is going to be a bit of a thicker bead. It's going to be about a 10mm bead. So I'm cutting about a third to halfway down the tube. So the sealant I apply comes out in that consistency. So there's varying opinions on the angle that people cut their tubes at. I tend to cut mine at a 30-degree angle. Some people cut it straight, some people cut it at a 45. I prefer 30 degrees because no matter what way you cut it, you have to hold it parallel. Whichever degree you cut it at, you have to hold it parallel to the surface. So 30 degrees works well for me. So I'm comparing it to the paddle pop stick now, just to get a rough estimate on how far down I should cut it on the tube. So here we go, guys. I'm about to apply the new sealant. So as I said before, you want to hold it parallel to your cut and then start feeding the bead into the joint. See how I'm keeping it consistent and I'm fully impregnating the joint itself, so the silicone is going into the joint and sort of it will be able to hold itself there. That's why it's so important to feed it in on the angle you cut your tube at. You want to keep your bead not too big and not too small. If it's too small, then you won't get a nice cut in the bead, and if it's too big, it's going to be too messy to clean up. So you want to try and get a nice consistent bead throughout. So keep in mind, I'm doing this with one hand while holding the camera, so it's not going to be this hard for you guys. I've been doing it for a very long time, so it's built into my skill and into my subconscious movement, which is why I'm making it look easy. But I definitely advise to use two hands for this. So here we have the spray, and we're spraying over our silicone bead. Now it's so important that you don't spray into an open joint. If you spray into an open joint, the silicone won't stick. So I highly advise to spray away from the joint and don't let any spray get into an open joint. So here we have the soaked popsicle stick, and now we're going to cut into the bead and start to tool our silicone off. So it's important that the stick was soaking, so now the silicone sort of just falls off the stick. If the stick hadn't been soaking, the silicone will stick to the popsicle stick and make your life extra hard. That's why it's so important to soak your popsicle sticks. So silicone application is really like an art form. It's a lot like hairdressing, you know. You have to get your cuts right. You have to cut into the silicone bead consistently to make the whole bead look consistent and nice, as I'm doing here. And that's why it's so important to fully fill the joint, because if you don't fully fill the joint, your spray will go in behind the silicone, and that's when problems occur and mold can grow. That's why it's so important to fully fill the joint and not underpipe it, but then again, don't overpipe it, because if you overpipe it, then the mess is a lot harder to clean up. You have to get that perfect consistency. That's also why it's so important to cut your tube at the right angle and the right width. So now you can see I'm just dabbing my finger, and I'm sort of really lightly, just going over it. You don't want to push into it too deep or too hard, because if you push into it too hard, you're going to create finger marks. You just want to lightly brush over it. But it's very important to have your silicone dipped in the the soapy solution. So here's the difficult part, guys. These are the corners. So whenever you come to a corner, there's 3 points that you have to cut in at. The angle going up, and the angle going left, and the angle going right. So now I'm cutting in on the angle going up. I've already cut in on left and right, as you can see. See this left angle, I'm about to cut into it again because there's a bit of a lump there. So you can always go over your work. As I said, it is an art form. It's a lot like hairdressing. You have to make your cuts nice and precise. These corners are the hardest and they're going to take the longest to learn, but if you keep persisting at it, you'll eventually get there. That's why it's so important to spray over your work and use your finger as like a smoothing or a guide to finish and smooth the work out, especially these corners. See, I'm just going over it again, cutting into it again to make that bead nice and consistent and perfect. See, so I've just piped out the next section. As you can see, it's all fairly nice and consistent, not too small, not underpiped, not overpiped, perfect for my profile shape. If you're going to use a smaller profile, obviously you'll pipe a smaller bead. If you're going to use a bigger profile, obviously you'll pipe a bigger bead. You just got to get a feel for how big you need the bead to be for the profile or pop stick that you have. So see, I'm doing it in sections. If you're a beginner, you'll need to do it in sections, otherwise the silicone is going to dry out and you're not going to be able to pipe it off in time. The silicone will get too hard and dry. That's why it's important, if you're doing it in sections, to spray away from open joints and only spray into the parts you've piped out. See, down to the right here will be an open joint, so I spray away from that and don't let any mist or solution get into the open joint. If you're more advanced, you can pipe out a whole bath and then spray the whole bath and then tool the whole bath off. As you'll see at the end of my video, I pipe out a whole bath and then I'll tool the whole bath off. But for this part of the video, I'm just doing it in sections, guys, so I can show you precisely how to apply and how to remove the sealant, or how to tool off the sealant. So here we go, we're doing a corner again, cutting in just at that left corner. I'm just getting the excess silicone off the tile there. And dabbing my finger in the solution again and just going over it to give it that perfect smooth finish. Remember, you want to only be very light on the surface when you're smoothing it out like this. So here I continue on the corner, I'm cutting upwards. So you have to be precise about where you cut into the corner. Now cutting into the right corner. If you look closely, you'll still see a bit of a lump, so I'm just going to touch that up in the corner there, in that top corner. You can see I'm cutting into it again just to touch it up, give it that perfect nice corner there, give it a perfect nice edge. Now I'm using my finger just to make it pristine and perfect. This really is an art form, guys, and don't expect to get it perfect your first time. You'll need to try over and over and over to get it perfect, but at least you'll have the knack to be able to fully waterproof seal the bath so that water keeps out of it. I'm just doing it at a professional level. Remember, I've been doing this for 7 years, nearly every day of my life, so it's like a subconscious skill that's built into me. It's like any sort of thing. Once you do it for long enough, you sort of becomes automatic. I'm just grateful that I'm able to show you guys how to do this so thoroughly, so you can do your own sealing and your own sealant in your bath, so you won't have to pay someone to come out and do it. So here, do another corner, cutting in precisely. You want to be cutting in about the width of the popsicle stick you're using. So leaving about a width of the popsicle stick you're using each side. So if you cut in about a width of the popsicle stick on the left, on the right, and on the top end, you'll get a nice perfect little bulb. You can just use your finger and smooth that corner out. But it's going to take experience to get those corners perfect. It's not easy, guys. So there's that little bubble I'm talking about in that corner there, you can see. Just cutting into it again. I'm using my finger to make it nice and perfect. Using my finger again just to make it nice and all nice and perfect and pristine. So here we have the straight run. This is a bit easier than the corners. Just a nice straight swipe or cut, and it should come off perfectly. That's if you've applied the bead correctly. Remember, you want a nice consistent bead, so when you're tooling off like this, you can have a nice consistent finish. This really is an art form that I've perfected over the last 6 or 7 years, so I do make it look quite simple, but once you guys get your hands onto it, you'll realize it's a bit of a skill to be acquired. But if you want to persist at it, I believe in all of you. I believe everyone can do this. Everyone has the power to learn a new skill and to be able to, you know, create things for themselves. So I believe in all you guys, and this is why I'm making the video, because I believe all of you can excel in whatever you want to do. So here I've applied the consistent bead, as you can see, to the new section, or to the last section of the bath. I haven't recorded myself tooling it off, but now you can see this is the complete and perfect finish. A nice 8 to 10 mil bead all around, perfectly waterproofed, perfect finish, nice and smooth, no faults whatsoever. And this is real silicone artwork, guys. Perfect corners. And now in this next clip, I've just fast forwarded it. You can see me piping out this whole bath. I'm piping out the whole thing, just so you can see that I really am a pro. I'm not lying to you guys. So I've piped out the whole bath. Took me about 5 minutes to pipe out all the internal corners and around the bath area, and then it took me about 5 minutes to spray and tool everything off to give it a perfect finish. Remember, I have siliconed literally thousands and thousands of kilometers over the last, 5, 6, 7 years, so I do make it look easy, but it's something that can be acquired by everyone, I think. So I think you should all give it a go, and you should all definitely save the money and do your own silicone work. It's definitely a an awesome skill to acquire, especially if you are in the building or construction industry, and you can't rely on your labourer or the sidekick to do it, because it is an acquired skill. So it's definitely something that's teachable and learnable, and I believe all you guys can learn how to do this. So just keep persisting at it, you'll eventually get there. It's definitely as I said, it's definitely an awesome skill to have if you are in building and construction.